Good morning, everybody, and happy World Ocean Day. The day has finally arrived. My name is Alex. I'm a park interpreter for California State Parks, and I'd like to welcome you to beautiful Crystal Cove State Park down here in Southern California in Orange County. And all week long, California State Parks Ports program has been giving you ocean-themed programs leading up to this wondrous day, World Ocean Day, where we celebrate everything ocean. And I thought this morning a great way to start the day would be to read a story about a very exciting ocean creature that lives in a special habitat that's right behind me. You might see some rocks behind me. This is one of the Tidepool areas here at Crystal Cove State Park. So today we are going to learn about an animal. We're actually going to read this story, House for Hermit Crab by Eric Carle. Does anybody know what this animal is right here? It's a very cool animal to see crawling around the rocks in the tide pools. This is a hermit crab. So we're going to be reading House for Hermit Crab. And hermit crab in this story meets a lot of different kinds of ocean animals along his journey. And one of those animals we have to start off with because we actually just found one right behind us. See, there's some people exploring in the tide pools. First of all, who can tell me what is a habitat? You guys know what a habitat is? So a habitat is a natural home for plants and animals. And the tide pool habitat is anywhere there's a rocky shoreline at low tide when the water washes back. Then there are pools of water in the rocks and you can see some really amazing creatures. I want to introduce you to our first creature that we're going to meet in our book. And that, I'm actually just going to walk with you so that you can help discover it with me. So you feel like you're on the beach with me. Wow, look at this is Crystal Cove Beach. We have a low tide right now. The water's pulled back, lots of sand. We have some beachgoers who are excited to explore. Summertime, kids are getting out of school, lots of people enjoying this California State Park. Now, when you're exploring the tide pools, we're going to be very careful. Watch where we're stepping. But let's see what we might find over these rocks. All right. Oh, I think I see it. Oh my goodness. What is this? It's the star of the rocks. This is a sea star. Sometimes when I get low, I might lose connection. So I'm going to see if this works. But this is an ochre sea star. It's probably going to wash back toward a rock with the current. And some sea stars can have up to 20 arms, but the ones we have are actually have eyes like that. Their mouth is on the undersills and clams. So this is an ochre sea star. Just came up to say Happy World Ocean Day to us. And we can say Happy World Ocean Day back to this beautiful ochre sea star. Thank you. See, the thing that I love about this job, being here at the beach and being outside in nature is you never know what you're going to see every single day. So nature is just so surprising in that way and so rewarding and so fun. Okay, back to story time. So the sea star is one of the animals we'll be meeting during our story. And then also we have, who else are we going to be meeting? Well, first of all, let's talk about our star of the book, our hermit crab. So, you know, have you ever seen a shell and you don't know if it's empty, but then you wait and it wiggles? And it could be a sea snail, but if you're patient, it might become a hermit crab. Now, hermit crabs, every different animal has a different role or job in the tide pools, and the hermit crabs are like the garbage collectors. They'll eat anything. They eat plants, they eat meat, they even eat dead things, so they're scavengers. But did you know that hermit crabs, they're actually born naked without a shell. They don't have a shell. So they have to find an empty sea snail shell and crawl inside. And then as they grow, is the shell getting bigger? No, So then they have to crawl out and find a bigger shell. Then it gets so tight, they might have to crawl out and find a bigger shell until they're a full adult hermit crab. And the hermit crab really needs this shell for protection and shelter, just like you have a home and you feel safe when you go home. So the hermit crab feels safe in its shell. But where does it get this shell? It gets its shell from a different ocean animal. This is our sea snail. Sea snail's got some funny eyes. So sea snails have a shell. They're born with their shell and grow with their shell. And it's such a great adaptation for protection and shelter. Did you know that the sea snail can pull its entire body inside of a shell and shut a trap door at low tide so it doesn't dry out in the hot sun when there's no water? And they have a muscular foot. It's like a suction cup they use to grip on the rocks and crawl around. They have a really funny mouth at the top of that foot. It's really rad. It's called a radula. And it's a scraping tongue they use to scrape seaweed off the rocks. They usually only eat plants. Most of our sea snails only eat plants. So they are herbivores. All right, do we have any other animals we might meet along the way? Ooh, what about the purple porcupines of the sea? Can you think of an ocean animal that's prickly? It can be purple, it can be red. It is our sea urchin. Now, of course, this is not a real sea urchin. This is just a toy, because these spines would actually be very, very sharp and prickly. They have sharp spines, and then they have kind of squishy tube feet in between their spines that are suction cups that they use to move around and collect shells to protect themselves. Have you guys ever seen this kind of shell at the beach before? Have you ever wondered what this shell is? Every single shell tells a story. Like this shell, shells that look like this are usually sea snails. This was a wavy top turban sea snail, but this is actually not a sea snail shell. This is called a test, and it is the skeleton of our sea urchin. So that's pretty cool. So sea urchins are out there in the tide pools in the ocean. They love to munch on kelp. And guess what? Some kelp just washed up next to me here in my ocean blanket this morning. Kelp is algae. It's a plant-like organism in the ocean, not a true plant though. And it makes a forest of seaweed out underneath our waters in this marine protected area, or MPA. And our sea urchins love to eat the kelp. Sometimes they eat too much kelp, but luckily we have lobsters, and our lobsters like to eat the sea urchins. So everything's connected and keeps everything balanced when we have all the different kinds of ocean animals living together. All right, so I think maybe it's now time to start our story. We've already had an adventure, seen a live animal, and learned about some creatures. Okay, we're going to start Eric Carle's A House for Hermit Crab. I'm going to pull up some images, so if you would like to read along with me, you can read along. Let's make sure these images are in order. All right. Oops, that's not right. Sorry, guys. Got to start on the right page. Oh, I'm feeling a cool breeze on my skin. Smells a little salty in the air. Okay, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, I guess maybe these are out of order. Sorry, guys, this might just take a minute. Yeah, they're out of order. Okay. Just gonna have to look at it. Okay, time to move. One. Thank you guys for your patience. I'm so sorry for this. I see, they're going backwards. Okay, thank you guys. I hope you still enjoyed looking at the ocean behind me while I was working at that. We had some tentacle difficulties. All right, so we are gonna go to the first page. Okay, time to move, said Hermit Crab one day in January. I've grown too big for this little shell. He had felt safe and snug in his shell, but now it was too snug. Hermit Crab stepped out of the shell and onto the floor of the ocean, but it was frightening out in the open sea without a shell to hide in. What if a big fish comes along and attacks me, he thought. I must find a new home soon. Early in February, Hermit Crab found just the house he was looking for. It was a big shell and strong. He moved right in, wiggling and waggling about inside it to see how it felt. It felt just right. But it looked so, well, so plain, thought Hermit Crab. In March, Hermit Crab met some sea anemones. They swayed gently back and forth in the water. How beautiful you are, said the Hermit Crab. Would one of you be willing to come and live on my house? It is so plain, it needs you. I'll come, whispered a small sea anemone. Gently, Hermit Crab picked it up with his claw and put it on his shell. In April, Hermit Crab passed a flock of starfish moving slowly along the seafloor. How handsome you are, said Hermit Crab. Would one of you be willing to decorate my house? I would, signaled a little sea star. Carefully, Hermit Crab picked it up with his claw and put it on his house. In May, Hermit Crab discovered some coral. They were hard and didn't move. How pretty you are, said Hermit Crab. Would one of you be willing to make my house more beautiful? I would, creaked a crusty coral. Gingerly, Hermit Crab picked it up with his claw and placed it on his shell. Sorry, I skipped that page. Okay. In June, Hermit Crab came to a group of snails crawling over a rock on the ocean floor. They grazed as they went, picking up algae and bits of debris and leaving a neat path behind them. How tidy and hardworking you are, said Hermit Crab. Would one of you be willing to come and help clean my house? I would, offered one of the snails. Happily, Hermit Crab picked it up with his claw and placed it on his shell. In July, Hermit Crab came upon several sea urchins. Remember the sea urchins we learned about? They had sharp, prickly needles. How fierce you are, said Hermit Crab. Would one of you be willing to protect my house? I would, answered a spiky sea urchin. Gratefully, Hermit Crab picked it up with his claw and placed it near his shell. In August, Hermit Crab and his friends wandered into a forest of seaweed. It's so dark here, thought Hermit Crab. How dim it is, whispered the sea anemone. How gloomy it is, whispered the starfish. How murky it is, complained the coral. I can't see, said the snail. It's like nighttime, cried the sea urchin. In September, Hermit Crab spotted a school of lanternfish darting through the dark water. Wow, look at those lights lighting up the dark. How bright you are, said Hermit Crab. Would one of you be willing to light up our house? I would, replied one lanternfish, and it swam over near the shell. In October, Hermit Crab approached a pile of smooth pebbles. How sturdy you are, said Hermit Crab. Would you mind if I rearranged you? Not at all, answered the pebbles. Hermit Crab picked them up one by one with his claw and built a wall around his shell. Now my house is perfect, cheered Hermit Crab. But in November, Hermit Crab felt that his shell seemed a bit too small. Remember, the Hermit Crab is growing, but that shell is not growing. Little by little, over the year, Hermit Crab had grown. Soon he would have to find another bigger home. But he had come to love his friends, the sea anemone, the starfish, the coral, the sea urchin, the sea snail, the lanternfish, and even the smooth pebbles. They have been so good to me, thought Hermit Crab. They are like a family. How can I ever leave them? In December, a smaller hermit crab passed by. I have outgrown my shell, she said. Would you know of a place for me? I have outgrown my house too, answered Hermit Crab. I must move on. You are welcome to live here, but you must promise to be good to my friends. I promise, said the little crab. Oh, look, they're sharing. The following January, Hermit Crab stepped out and the little crab moved in. Couldn't stay in that little shell forever, said Hermit Crab as he waved goodbye. The ocean floor looked wider than he had remembered, but Hermit Crab wasn't afraid. Soon he spied the perfect house, a big empty shell. It looked, well, a little plain, but sponges, he thought, barnacles, clownfish, sand dollars, electric eels. Oh, there are so many possibilities. I can't wait to get started. The end. Wow, this has been such a wonderful way to start the day, reading about House for Hermit Crab, seeing a sea star in this tide pool habitat. I'm so excited that it's World Ocean Day, and thank you for tuning in to celebrate. One of the ways that you can help protect our tide pools is we've learned that our hermit crabs need these shells to survive, right? This is their home. So when we go tide pooling in our marine protected area, we always leave the shells there and the animals because we want them to live wild and free for years and years to come, right? All right, well, thank you guys so much for tuning in for World Ocean Day. I hope you have a spectacular rest of the day. At 1 o'clock, I'll be doing a creature feature on octopuses. I'm really excited for, but have a wonderful day and happy World Ocean Day.